not distorted. But what they meant to say was not reported. Before the torches come to town, we gonna burn this fort down.
Welcome back to FORTitude, everybody. We appreciate those that listen to our show as we realize there are many choices in podcasts, and many of you who have chosen us, we thank you wholeheartedly. It seems these days everybody has a podcast. Brendan, have you noticed this as well?
Yes. Maybe not with 5 listeners like we have, but
right.
perhaps.
Coach, do you have a podcast?
I don't have a podcast. Nobody wants to listen to
Not
me.
yet. We have Coach Saarloos in-house, everyone, and we are very excited to have him here. Before we get to you, Coach, I got to talk a little about the fall weather we're experiencing. Brenton, how does the Payne family enjoy this nice, cool weather we're enjoying?
Well, we got my 8th graders football game got canceled last night due to lightning. So that is why the nasally allergies aren't coming out as much today, because I wasn't sitting out on the bleachers enjoying his game.
Oh, good.
In the night air.
Those of you tuning in, the voice to the right of me is the FORTitude version of Ken Burns, we like to call sometimes. But Brenton Payne, I'm J.W. Wilson. Thanks for joining us again. We like to talk about this guy across the desk from us, Brenton, because he's the brand new, as of about 3 months ago, the TCU head baseball coach. Welcome to the show, Kirk Saarloos.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We used to have an applause button, but I've somehow mismanaged the board so much. But
I'm very impressed with the setup you guys got.
Thank you.
You even have a surfboard.
Oh, yeah. And that was actually shaped by a guy named Tim Stamps in Westminster, California, which is not too far from
right.
That's another show, Kirk.
Right down the 22.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, Kirk, you were born in Long Beach, California, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your childhood growing up and then when baseball hit you.
Yeah. So I grew up, like you said, in Long Beach, California, born and raised there. And my dad played baseball at UCLA. So soon, I mean, as early as I can remember, I was playing baseball, throwing the ball with my dad in the backyard. So that was basically my childhood, is playing a lot of baseball, a lot of sports, football, soccer, basketball.
Yeah.
But always loved baseball, you know.
All around athlete. I know this to be true.
Yeah, I loved it.
When did you know you were better than others at baseball?
You know what? To be honest with you, not till like college.
College?
Really? Yeah. For sure.
Cal State Fullerton, correct?
Yeah, because I just grew up and I played on really good competitive teams, you know, and so I was always good, but I wasn't always the best player.
Yep.
And so next thing you know, you just kind of plot along and you get to Cal State Fullerton. My freshman year, I stunk, you know, I had like a 6 ERA, and then just summer ball. And then kind of the next couple of years got a little bit better, and then got drafted. And next thing you know, I was in the big leagues. It was like, whoa.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, you kind of like pull back and go, holy cow, how did I do that?
Did you have a sports question, Britton?
Yeah, at that time, there was so much emphasis on the kids' sports these days, and it's full-time year-round. And I will ask kind of a clothing one, too. When I first played, like, baseball, I recall wearing some jeans or some brown Levi's cords. Were you in the pants at that you're a little bit younger, but I didn't know when the transition from just...
So you played in jeans?
Yeah, it was only for a brief season, but that was never the case with you.
Never
I thought
the case
maybe
for
it was
me.
a generation thing.
Nope. Just straight
now
baseball
you're
pants.
seeing what I have to deal with on a weekly basis. Yes.
All right.
Heavily recruited out of high school?
Not really.
Not really?
I grew up in Long Beach, and Long Beach State is my, they're in my backyard, and never heard from them.
You played for the legendary George Horton. As you told me before the show, he's going into the NCAA Hall of Fame here in the next few months, correct?
Yeah, he's going in January when the national convention is always in January. So he's going to be inducted this January.
How was Coach Horton to you growing up through that?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is my dad played at Cerritos College with Coach Horton, and Coach Horton was a left-handed catcher. So you probably don't know much, but most catchers are right-handed.
Yes, I am familiar.
Brenton's next question, Kirk, is explain baseball.
Exactly. So he was a left-handed catcher, and they both played for a guy by the name of Wally Kincaid, who also taught like Augie Garrido, so like the whole West Coast way of baseball came from Wally Kincaid. So it was playing for Coach Horton was like basically kind of the same stuff my dad was teaching me while I was growing up.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of just the same verbiage, the same style of baseball. And so Coach Horton was great just because he's very cerebral. He's very kind of methodical in terms of the way he talks, and also just the way he thinks in the game of baseball. So I was always next to him, even when I wasn't pitching, just to be able to try and learn more about baseball. So he was a great mentor in terms of just teaching me the game of baseball.
Surely. You played in the College World Series under Coach Horton, and so this would translate into some other things later on in your future, which is very cool. So you had a very successful pitching career at Cal State Fullerton. You were selected in the third round of the 2001 draft by the Astros, where you only spent a year there. So we can start showing some photos of you. This is not the Astros, of course, but
No gray hair.
no gray hair yet. Yes.
Yet.
Still the
right.
facial hair, though. Just
Yeah, that's a bad look.
Kind of the Billy Goat chin.
Yeah, I
kind
didn't
of
like
thing.
that. That was
Yeah.
actually kind of semi in style back then, I think.
Yeah.
Bad look right now
But
for me.
clearly baseball pants,
pants.
not
Yes.
corduroys or jeans.
No jeans.
We can give you a
baseball
national. There's
pants.
your Astros card with the catcher or glove on your head. Your
Yeah.
head.
Oh, yeah.
That was back when I used to chew tobacco. Kids don't chew tobacco.
Was this during a rally? Because don't this happen sometimes during some type of rally where we're trying to win
Correct.
the game?
Yes, but
It's
that
not a
was
rally
actually
cap?
right after batting practice, and for some reason I didn't want to put my glove on my hand.
Yeah.
So I put it on my hat. Maybe
Kirk,
I was just signing autographs and I needed that right
Both
hand.
hands. You
Yes,
needed
but
both.
needed both
One to
hands.
hold, one to sign.
That's
We got
right.
you.
Before we get into your major league career, can we talk about being drafted and what that feels like and how that day went, and then your first experience in the leagues?
Yeah, so the funny story was the year before I wasn't drafted, right? This was back when the draft wasn't on TV. It was you sat behind your computer, like dial up internet, AOL,
You've got mail. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you would hear like who's ever announcing it going, New York Yankees pick number whatever, and you're sitting there and it was my brother, myself, and my dad sitting in the room, and it was like pick after pick after pick, and I'm like, man, I'm not going to get picked.
Uh-oh.
So it used to be 20 rounds on the first day. And I said, well, if I don't get picked in the first day, screw those guys. I'm going back to school. And I didn't get picked. I would have signed for way less than I signed the next year if they would have just picked me in the first 20 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was a reliever then, right? So I didn't start until my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Then things changed significantly, right?
yeah, and then all of a sudden I played for Team USA the summer before my senior year, which was awesome because now you're playing literally with the best of the best amateur players on that national team. And usually it's reserved for guys that are going to be juniors. But it was me and a couple other guys that were on the team that didn't get drafted and were coming back to school. So we had a couple seniors on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was like, to your earlier question, it was kind of like, all right, this is like the best of the best in the country. And like somehow I'm on this team and I had some success with it. So it propelled me, I think, for my senior year to have a great senior year and then get drafted in the third round. That was cool. I actually didn't know I got drafted because we were practicing on the couple days prior to going to the World Series. And someone, like I said, there was no Twitter, there was no, information. Someone came to the practice and was like, hey, oh, by the way, you were drafted in the third round. I was like, oh, cool. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So back to that radio deal. Was that hard? I mean, you're sitting there listening and then they come up to the end of it and you're like,
Yeah.
Or did you just take it as like, okay, I got to work hard? Like what happened in that deal?
Yeah, kind of in my mind, it was like, well, if they don't think I'm, how many players? There's, 20 times 30, right? There's 20 rounds. There's 30 players per round.
Yeah.
You're not a sports guy, but are you a math guy?
600
There
is
we
the
go.
30.
If I'm not
somewhere around there.
If I'm not one of those best 600 players, well, then screw Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
And I remember telling myself, I'm not going to pitch for those guys because they obviously don't think I'm good enough. So I'm going to make sure that I'm the best teammate and we're going to get to Omaha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing when you kind of put that perspective and say, we're going to be the best team we possibly can.
Something drives you.
And then next thing you know, like the personal goals also get met when
fall
your
into
team
place.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Did you have a plan B if baseball didn't pan out?
yeah, probably just going to the family business. My family, my dad, my grandpa, my uncle, they owned a lawn and garden business.
Okay.
So probably just would have went into that.
You
the
probably would have
fallback
surfed
option.
a little with that older brother too, huh?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, baseball would have been done, and I would have had a little bit more free time. So yeah, he probably would have drugged me out to the ocean.
Yeah.
So you first you started with the Astros and only for a year, correct? Year or two? Is it 2?
So I got drafted in 01 and then got traded in 04.
04. So
So
that's
it's a couple 3 years.
couple 3 years.
Yeah.
One major thing happened during that time, which is known to like people who know you. You were part of a 6-pitcher no-hitter of the Yankees, June 11th, 2003. You were the third inning, last out in all of the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through that a little bit and what that might feel like for those that don't know sports and those that aren't that good at sports?
Yeah. Well, usually what I tell people is I threw a no-hitter in Yankee Stadium. I just don't tell them that there was 5 other pitchers, right?
pitchers.
So so Roy Oswalt was the starting pitcher and he blew out his groin. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Can
Very
you explain?
painful.
Yeah. How does
I'm not
that
gonna
happen on the
explain that.
mountain? Yeah. On
Yeah.
the mound, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he hurt his groin. So
Did you
next
hear
thing
that
you know,
terminology on the mound? There was
Correct.
little. Thank
Right,
you.
right.
Okay,
I've
so
heard
he
it
blows out
happening
his
in
groin.
other.
He
he blows
one
out,
down.
right? He blows out his groin. So anytime I was the long reliever then. So me and a guy by the name of Pete Monroe. So as soon as he got hurt, Pete and I looked at each other and was like, well, it's you or me. I'm not sure which one. So
Yeah.
I think Pete went in first, and then I followed him. And then as soon as we got through that without a hit, and we turned it over to like the really good pitchers,
Yeah.
like Octavio Dotel, Brad Lidge, and Billy Wagner.
Right.
Probably like one of the best back end of bullpens in baseball history with those three. Then we're like, because nobody knows and thinks about a no hitter until like the 7th, 8th inning, and especially when you have all these pitchers going.
Yeah.
So, everybody knew, with the exception of one player on our team, was our second baseman Jeff Kent had no idea what was happening. Right. So we get the final out, and everybody's on the field is jumping around, and Jeff Kent looks at Bagwell and Biggio and was like, dude, it's just another win. What are you guys so excited about? And he's like, dude, look at the scoreboard. It's a no hitter.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Does that go in the history books?
yeah, I think there's been one other team, maybe two now, that have done a 6 pitcher, but
Yeah.
that was the first at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
that was cool to be a part of. It was, in New York, and then my family was in town, so
Oh,
we went
yeah.
out for a good steak dinner. It was a
Nice.
cool night. Yeah, for
Nice.
sure.
And Brenton, do you know the name Derek Jeter? Does that name ring any bells for
I
you?
am familiar.
Who is Derek Jeter to you?
He's a baseball player that I'm familiar with.
Nailed it. Well, Kirk, we have a little surprise. We want to run this video. You know this moment. That's you pitching. Oh, that's Mr. Derek Jeter swinging and missing, striking out.
How about that?
Yankee Stadium.
Now, is
I
this
think I
the one
struck
that
out,
is
like-
married to J-Lo?
No, that's A-Rod.
Okay.
But he did well. Derek did well for himself in his dating career, so don't feel bad for
He
him.
did okay. So
Yeah.
what was that experience like?
That was actually really cool, because I'm not a strikeout guy, right? I don't strike very many people out, more of kind of a pitch to contact type of guy. And I mean, he went in the Hall of Fame, I think, a couple weeks ago. That was one of my, I think I have more people that probably have me in their home run book than I have in my strikeout book.
Yeah.
So to have him in there is pretty cool.
What pitch was it?
It's just a sinker in. Yeah, fastball.
Yeah.
And you were known for the sinker, right? From
Yeah.
our extensive research team
Oh,
has
yeah.
decided as if it come up with the fastball, the curveball, slider, changeup, but the sinker, you have
Yeah.
a mid to high 80s sinker. That was
Yeah.
what you were really good at.
Yeah, I mean, I had to make it move because I didn't throw very hard.
Does
right?
knuckleball have a place in the game
It
anymore?
does. We actually have a guy on our team right now that is featuring a knuckleball.
No
The
kidding?
first knuckleball I've ever coached.
Now, I did watch a documentary on that knuckleball guy, and it showed him in like 5 apartments within a year's time frame. Like he was going
What
to all
was
these
do you
teams.
remember his name?
No, it's on Netflix or something. He was
Okay.
one of the. It was recent, of kind of recent, but it was.
His name was Mike Tyson, Brenton.
He had
And
both ears.
Right. Anywho, so Kirk, you go on from the Astros to the Oakland A's for a couple years, to the Reds for a year, then to Oakland in 2008, retired in 2009 after 7 seasons. One of the questions for athletes, some of us not, some of us have a small inkling of how that works, but what does it feel like to walk away from the game playing wise? It's tough. Was that tough for you?
It wasn't. I mean, we, my wife and I, we had Brady was born in 2007. So he would be about 3 years old when I decided to hang it up, and my wife was pregnant with our second, Emery, and it was kind of, I needed shoulder and elbow surgery, and it was kind of, I think I was 30 at the time, and kind of mentally I was like, I don't know if I got this in me anymore.
Yeah.
And so the injury kind of was like, I got to rehab for a year and a half, and I was ready to be done. Just mentally, I was just ready to be done, and I wasn't ready to rehab. So I said, let's turn it over to the next chapter. I knew I wanted to get into coaching. So, but it's kind of surreal. You look back and you're like, I can't believe I did that.
Did that
Right.
coaching aspect come from just the time with your dad? Like the way that he was able to bring so much into your life and
No
coach
doubt.
you? Was it like kind of a testament? I know that you were close to him, and I'd heard
Yeah.
some things. So
Yeah, no doubt. Him and Coach Horton, because I've had great coaches, Lee, even all the way down to Lee Williams, who my dad also played with at Cerritos College. He coached me from when I was 13 to probably 16. And that's kind of where it really started. Great coach there. And then Coach Horton, in college baseball. And Dave Serrano was my pitching coach. Rick Vanderhook was the hitting guy. We had a great staff. And I knew it was, and I loved my time in college. So it was one of those deals where it's like, okay, I love baseball. Now I want to kind of give back to the game.
yeah,
And do it I didn't want to do professional baseball because I just felt like you don't have as much impact. So college was always, no doubt, was going to be where I wanted to land.
Before we jump into the college real quick, though, we stepped over one little quick note that's worth mentioning. When you were at the A's, you were part of the team that was featured on a book and a movie called Moneyball. So you actually played for Billy Beane. Can you talk about Billy Beane a little bit and how he was to you?
Yeah, he's like you said, that book was super cool, and to be in that book was awesome. It's, just kind of gives a synopsis of how Oakland tries to stay relevant with a low payroll. So, and then getting to meet him when I got traded over there, and getting to meet him, and he's a very intense, very competitive guy. Like we'd be out on the field and he'd be in the weight room running on the treadmill, and he wouldn't even want to listen to the game.
Really?
Because he'd get bent out of shape of why this guy was pitching or if he didn't pitch well. So, but he was super cool in the locker room, but he was really good at what he did, and what he does. For them to stay relevant all these years with a really low payroll.
Still close with him?
I'll check in with him every once in a while. David Forrest is the other. He was the assistant GM. It was Billy was the GM. He was the assistant GM. David kind of runs the day-to-day now, right, as kind of the main GM. So every once in a while, obviously, still check in with a lot of those guys in Oakland. And actually, Steve Vucinich, the clubhouse manager, right, probably the best clubhouse manager that I ever had, actually is retiring this year.
What's the clubhouse manager do?
Well, he runs everything.
Yeah.
He makes sure that, whether it be the food, and then he's got, all of his people underneath him in terms of all the laundry. But he makes sure that, equipment, anything and everything. He's literally the do-it-all.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for 40 years. And
yeah.
He was awesome. Is
Billy Beane as handsome in person as he's portrayed in the movie by chance?
He's a good-looking gentleman. Yes.
Okay, good.
He's not Brad Pitt.
Let me ask a question on that, because now you're in it, and now you're into recruiting and all this stuff, and the MLB and college are different. We got too many stats floating around? I mean, you were in that thing, and it's like, did this change the game? Because now we're looking at all these stats, and we're just not really seeing athletic ability with
Yeah, and I think we went to the Ranger game for my daughter's birthday 2 nights ago, and there's all the jumbotron, all the big screens, and there's all these, whether it be, they don't have the batting average next to the player anymore. It's their on-base OPS, on base plus slugging, right? Because that number's bigger, because there's, everyone's hitting between 200 and 240 nowadays.
OPS. Was that a song by Naughty by Nature? What was OPS?
I think it's
on base plus slugging.
I think that's OPP.
I know what that was. I was trying not to go to the younger audience with this.
Obviously,
but I agree with you. I think the game has changed. It has gone pretty analytical. With numbers and what creates wins and what creates value. And I think we've lost a little bit of, what the game of baseball is meant to be played and what it's looks like and is the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah, it's tough for those stats to kind of show, like your no-hitter, what was going on in that game.
Right.
Where you had some guys' minds which like, we're celebrating a victory, who cares, right? And then there are other guys who are like so focused on the stats that's like, stats, I just want to make the stat, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
there's people in the front office, that's all they care about is the numbers, the stats. And
yeah.
I mean, baseball is not just numbers and stats. It's about, you got to score more than the other team.
Yes.
And how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And guys can hit 200, but if they hit 40 home runs, they bring value. I'm like, well, yeah, they hit 40. I'd rather have a guy that hits 285 with 25 homers, and does the little things than a guy that just
that's very
all or nothing.
Billy Beane-esque right there. Yes. Yeah. So you finished playing after a really incredible career. We all believe that to be true. I hope you feel the same, because you did some really cool stuff. You go on to Cal State Fullerton to coach in 2011. Then at 12, you become the pitching coach. Then you get a call from a guy by the name of Jim Schlossnagel to come over. How did you know Jim? How did that happen? And how did that whole thing transition in you coming to TCU?
Yeah, so I was at Cal State Fullerton. First of all, I had to finish my degree, which I was 30 years old and sitting in the back of a history 110A class. And
we've all been there.
I know, they're like, who's the creepy old dude in the back? So that was fun at 30 with 2 kids finishing school.
Yeah. After a pro baseball career.
Way better student while I was 30 than when I was 18. I'll tell you that. Way better.
Yeah.
I was closer in age to the professor than the kids in the class. So it was like him and I saw eye to eye more, or him and I saw more eye to eye than probably anybody else in the room. So But yeah, so started there as an undergrad assistant and then got the pitching coach job the very next year, which was phenomenal. It's very tough to get into a full-time position as a college baseball coach. Very difficult. So I got super lucky to get in. And then, after the first year, Cal State Fullerton and TCU had been playing. We came out, I think, my undergrad assistant year, and then they came to us my first year as pitching coach at Fullerton. And so he just knew me from across the field, and he knew my pitching coach back when I played at Fullerton, Dave Serrano. And so he kind of reached out to Dave and Coach Horton and said, hey, who should I hire? And they both, recommended me, and that's when he gave me a call. And so they were out playing UCLA in a super regional, and he's like, hey,
As you hear our doorbell going off, pardon us.
No worries.
Merry Christmas, Kirk.
Yeah.
So he gave me a call. He's like, hey, why don't you come and meet me for dinner, on Thursday night before we play UCLA on in the super regionals, because I'm going to lose our pitching coach to Randy Mazey to West Virginia. And I'm like, sure, whatever, I'll go. Like, I'm not going to leave my alma mater. My whole family lives in Southern California. I'm not, but I'll take a free dinner at Outback.
Yeah.
So went to Outback, and he's like, why don't you just, if we ended up losing this series, why don't you come out on Tuesday and just check the place out?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I remember Del Frisco's, because when we played here 2 years ago in Fort Worth, we went to Del Frisco's. My wife and I did. So I'm like, well, if you take me to Del Frisco's, I'll come out. So he's like, done. So Tuesday came out, and they lost, and then came out on Tuesday, went to Del Frisco's, and
Did you guys drive around, like kind of specking it out, like, could we live here kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of felt like it was coming.
The food was that good, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably still feeding off the slaughter from the stock show at that time.
Possibly.
But yeah, they took us, they were really good, in terms of recruiting me.
Yeah.
Like Chris Delcani, they had breakfast at Colonial. They knew I loved golf. So we had breakfast at Colonial. They took me, the funny story is we were at breakfast, and we were supposed to go look at 3 houses, because that's how advanced they were in terms of like recruiting. They were like, hey, this is what you can get in Texas.
Professional rush chairmen.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this house you can get in Texas. Like in California, that house is like $4 million. You can't buy it, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing was we were sitting at breakfast, and then Delcani kind of got up. He's like, I got to go, pick up the house. I got somebody coming over to check it out. It was me.
Oh, nice.
So we actually, after having breakfast with the guy, we went into his house, and I checked out his tie closet, and kind of snooping around. It was pretty fun.
It's like, man, I could live in the place that this guy
Did you open the door and some doves sprung
Exactly.
out, and a deer ran across the yard?
How many soap robes were hanging in that closet?
Yeah, there was a lot of purple.
Oh yeah,
His tie collection was very, very impressive.
Somebody else has that.
Yeah.
And you were sold by this. I mean, I assume you're
No
like,
doubt.
wow, this is great. Okay.
I can, that's my job, like a mile away.
Yeah.
Like living on Stadium Drive. And so we bought the house, and I was totally in. I didn't want to let that onto my wife. I wanted her to be like in too. And so
was that hard? Was she good?
Well, we were flying home, and we were kind of probably over New Mexico or somewhere on the way back west. And she
Area 51.
Yeah. She looked over at me, and she goes, you're an idiot if you don't take this job. I'm like,
really?
Yeah.
Done. So we landed and called back.
So
and
you're
said,
actually here because of your wife.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, most great things happen in my life because of her. So,
Yes, that's great. It's a great story.
For sure.
You arrive in 2012 and begin your career here as pitching coach. Incidentally, the ERAs in the College World Series for the Horned Frogs had begun about that time and have gone steadily upward and consistent. You are a pitching coach guru, in my opinion. Some of the players you've coached at TCU, some significant names and have gone to the league. Can you name a few of the guys you're most proud of, or people that you really resonate with still that were your protégés?
There's a ton of guys. That first group though was pretty special because you come here, and the first year actually wasn't very fun. We went like 30 and 29. Like that wasn't fun at all. I'm like, what did I get myself into? Right. But then after that, going to 4 straight College World Series. I mean, like Brian Howard, for example, was a freshman in 2014, and all he knows is 4 years and 4 World Series. Like that's unheard of. Like he's living in La La
That's
Land.
unusual, Britton.
Yeah.
I do understand that kind of success, not from personal, but from just outside.
Yeah.
Is it harder recruiting? You think about it, these guys are going straight to the pros. Like that is a heck of, you talk about being a rush chairman. That's got to be damn near impossible to recruit into a college system than these guys who are probably getting looks from all the flashy money and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, the recruiting process is different. Like, think about if, Coach Patterson had to deal with an NFL draft, right? Like, usually if you get a signed class, they're showing up to campus, right? There's no draft that can take them away, So with baseball, you got to be careful who you recruit, because if you recruit all the guys that are super talented, which you want, but Major League Baseball also wants those guys. So you can't have a full recruiting class of guys that you have a 50-50 chance of landing, right?
Is that where some of that non-stat stuff comes in?
Yeah.
And you start really seeing those kids' personalities. And
for sure. And what they value, right? Like, there's a lot of kids that, it's all about Major League Baseball. Like, they could care less about school. I'll sign for $200,000 and give up my, going to college and that life, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, there's no dollar that you could give me personally or the younger me of taking me away from what I was able to learn and go through for 4 years of school.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. And so, but Major League Baseball is recruiting the same kid that we have committed to us. So we have to re-recruit them, make sure they end up on campus. And we've gotten kind of smoked in the draft in some years, but then for every, Shane Boz, who just made his Major League debut with Tampa Bay and is doing really good, he was committed to us. We probably have in that 2017 class, we had our top 4 recruits all sign, right?
Yeah.
A shortstop that went in the second round, a third baseman that went in the second round, and then 2 first-round pitchers, and that hurts, right? And that shows up in this 2018-19 seasons when we were not quite as good.
Yeah.
When you lose it's a balancing act of making sure you get the best talent, but the best talent that is going to show up.
Does telling a kid that being 30 years old and sitting in a Fullerton, California school help with that, to try to keep them in school a little bit?
I think, when they get, $1 million to $2.5 million,
that would be a no.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah. It's a pretty tough. It's a pretty tough. Hey,
sure.
come and pay $30,000 to come to TCU and turn down $3 million.
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of
It's
tough
hard.
to do.
What's the experience like coaching in the College World Series?
It's like Coach Disneyland. You know what I mean? Like, when you're walking around Disneyland as a kid and it's just like, this is awesome. It's like being a coach. It's like, this is why you work super hard the whole year. And then you just get to be the last eight teams standing and play in Omaha. It's like, Rosenblatt, where I played when I was a player, was super cool because of the history of it. But TD Ameritrade is the same thing to these guys, because they didn't play in Rosenblatt, right? So, you get there and it's just every single day that you're there, it's just like, it's the best. It's the best day of the year.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to go to the Rosenblatt game. That was phenomenal. Do you get, I know you don't get tired of going, but do you get used to being there because you've been there so many times now? Is it almost like we're here because we're supposed to be here? Or is it like, this is brand new, special every time?
It's special every time, because there's always the story is always different every year, of getting there.
Best game in the pros for you, or College World Series being a coach, which ranks higher? Or you can say tie if it's too hard of a question.
I'd probably still say, best game pitching in the big leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough to beat.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But now, maybe being a head coach and getting back there might be a little bit different.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all things in Omaha are amazing.
Back to the uniform thing, because we did hear that you only wear the shirt at when you go to the World Series, if you do, and then
Team
for
picture
day, but not in there. Why in baseball do we have guys wearing the entire uniform? We thought about, what if Coach P was to put on
what I'm saying.
The shoulder pads, helmet as a coach? It doesn't.
What if our swimming and diving coach? What was he? What if he's
about
in
the
a
wrestling
Speedo?
coach? I mean, just think of the uniform possibilities that could exist.
I would
around
love
this.
to see Coach P on the sidelines this weekend.
Yes, we all would too.
That would be legit.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
But you don't don the jersey, right?
I don't.
You don the pants and
I'm more of
cleats.
like a
Hybrid.
Well, I'm more comfortable. Like I got my rainbow flip flops on currently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. That's,
and with pants. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
with
sure.
pants.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why bend down and tie your shoes when I can throw on my flip flops?
Yes.
It's raining outside. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But I'm more comfortable. Right. So I don't even wear a belt. I don't wear a belt. under my uniform.
Okay.
Right? Because I have my top on there. You can't even
it's very
see my
California
belt.
of you, yes.
Do some
right.
coaches take that? We did have a guy that we coached with in Little League, and he wore the full uniform. Do some coaches take it to even a higher level with maybe a cup for coaching or something with
Yeah, a little
protective
cup
gear?
check.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Jim Leland, who was the manager for many teams, but he actually wore his metal spikes. Like he took it to that extent. He went metal spikes, and then he'd rip down heaters in the dugout.
Well, then what is like but the injury factor on walking on a slick floor with those metal spikes? I've got to think as an older gentleman, that's not what a player is probably like. Whoa, we got to be careful, guys. We got our spikes. We're walking on the slip floor, and then to have somebody voluntarily do that,
yeah. I guess he was really concerned about
cigarettes as well.
He'd rip down heater after heater in the dugout, just ripping down lung darts and got his metal spikes on.
While coaching, just say, hey, guys, do as I say, not as I do. All
That's
right? Listen, you got to get out there.
That's right.
And we've been building up with all this to the pivotal moment of this. You were named 2015 this year, 3 months ago-ish, a little bit more, as the TCU head baseball coach. A huge deal. Everybody who knows you or knows of you was super happy this happened. Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director at TCU's, showing you the jersey. What did this moment feel like, and how did we celebrate this?
Yeah, that was a special, probably 48 hours, just kind of a whirlwind, having a bunch of people reach out and congratulations and press. You always kind of think of as a coach, okay, if I ever get to be a head coach, what's my press conference going to be like? And so, I really didn't write much down. It was kind of like, I knew who I wanted to thank, but I wanted to be more from the heart, and I didn't want it to be rehearsed and have it, so it was more just kind of from the heart. And so that it was a lot of fun. The one thing that, when you're thinking about, I lost my dad back in, 2020 in April. And so I always thought he would be there. So that was the one part that was super difficult in terms of like everything was exactly the way I thought it was going to be, with the exception of that.
Yeah. How did you get the news that you were the guy?
Well, I did the interview, and then, he kind of looked at me and he goes, all right, can you go to dinner tonight at Mr. Bashini's house? Because
this is Jeremiah talking. Okay.
Because we're going to offer you the job. I said, yeah, I think I can make room for that in my schedule.
After this moment, did you go to Del Frisco's that night for dinner?
No, we had Heim barbecue.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we went back to the house and had some friends over. And
did you check with your wife first? Okay, good.
Yeah.
She was probably there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we went back to the house and swam and had some Heim barbecue.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
My brother was back home, which I still give him kind of crap for. I'm like, you can't even make my press conference.
Well, he's too busy doing something else. Don't you want to talk about that?
So we smoked a cigar over a FaceTime
wonderful.
together. So the whole family was there and hanging out, and it was fun.
Well, congrats on that. That's a big deal for you, and it's a big deal for Fort Worth and obviously TCU. So that's a big, awesome deal that happened for you. So thanks for it. So what's it like being around 18 to 22-year-olds more or less on a daily basis as part of your livelihood? Is this a stressful deal? Because I'm drawing from the Coach Patterson mantra that every day could be the worst day if you get a phone call in the middle of the night or a big loss to perhaps SMU. But what is it like to depend on these kids for your livelihood?
Well, I think the great part about it is we have awesome kids. We're recruiting and getting kids that are really awesome to be around, coming from great families and hard workers. Do well in the classroom, but they're gonna mess up. I mean, think about when we were 18 to 21 years old.
Why do you point that hand right at me?
No, he looked at me, pointed at you.
So they're going to mess up,
You're right on, though.
I know. I'm a good evaluator of talent. I kind of evaluate what's going on over here. But yeah, they're going to mess up. So I think the good thing is I think enough, respect and that they're not ashamed to let you know when they do.
Yeah.
And so we hold them accountable, but at the same time, if they miss class, they call and text and let me know instead of, oh, he's not going to find out. Right. So having that kind of back and forth relationship to be able to be around these guys on a daily basis, it keeps you young, but it also gives you a lot of gray hair really fast is what I'm finding out.
Sure.
But I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Coming from the era that we did come from without these things attached to us all the time, you think it's harder to get through to them? I mean, are you seeing that? Or is it?
I think it's easier actually.
Yeah,
because we don't allow them to have their phones kind of in the locker room or out of practice for sure, but in the locker room, just because we want these guys to actually be around each other and hang out and talk with one another instead of, being on Snapchat or whatever, their TikTok, whatever they're doing.
It's probably one of those welcomed not punishment, but welcomed restrictions,
Yeah. And it's actually, these guys want to connect, you know, but a lot of times you're so used to doing it on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a great job, whether it be in the weight room, at the baseball field, connecting with one another and with everybody in our staff. So I think that's the great thing about it, is that it is different because, you have more, you're connected to these guys. I mean, a ton. These guys are around each other all the time, so, and sometimes without the phone, is when they have the most fun. And then they kind of get the phone back and they're like, man, I get more problems when I have my phone with me than when I don't, when I'm just being one of the guys and hanging out and being a good teammate.
Yeah.
What's the best part of the job for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Best part of the job for me is, getting to set the temperature of the room. That's probably my favorite part is being able to, the things that matter the most to me and my staff, being able to have that matter to the guys, and I think that's the funnest part, is being able to, connect with those guys and let them know this is what it's going to be like, and try and be exactly the same every single day.
Are you a rah-rah, big-time voice coach, motivational guy? Or are you more like a let the players do what you've been trained to do kind of guy?
Probably a little bit of both. I think if you err on one, if you get too far on one side, I think you're leaving out this side. And if you get too far over here, then I think you're, so I don't yell a ton. So when I do yell, I think it's like has a little bit more power to it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like being a father, really.
I was about to say, as you were saying all that, I've never seen a picture of Dad, but picturing your dad, like all the same things, right? It was probably, if we were to ask you right now, how did your dad coach you? You could probably say, just roll tape, rewind a minute or two, and I'll just tell you, the same thing.
Yeah. Like, it's, made the mistake but he would tell you how proud he was of you. And then kind of after that, kind of talk about, okay, how can we get better? And then, kind of like those type of things. It's like, okay, like these kids, you've heard the saying, they don't really care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
Right. That's my big thing, is like, we got to have relationships with these kids, because we're going to coach them. We're going to coach them hard. But they got to know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's our ultimate goal, is to know that all the coaches, all the support staff, the players need to know that we really value them.
Yeah.
As human beings, as opposed to if they can throw a curveball or hit one.
Mm-hmm.
And then all that stuff will take care of itself over time. It's just a matter of making sure that they know that they're valued more than just baseball.
Sure. Hardest part of the job.
Yeah, I guess it's probably decision fatigue. I have to make a lot of decisions, which, as an assistant coach, as a recruiting coordinator, you're making decisions on basically who you're going to recruit. And then as a pitching coach, just on in terms of taking care of the pitchers, now it's, way more stuff off the field, decisions on the field, but way more decisions off the field. So having to make those decisions, it's awesome to be able to make those decisions. But yeah, that's probably the hardest part, is just way more things to be in charge of, which it's been a lot of fun in terms of some of the things to be in charge of.
Well, speaking of decisions and like going back to that pitch, so how does that happen? The coach tells the catcher what sign to call, and then do you have the decision ability to say, like, could you have not thrown that sinker to Jeter? You said, I'm not throwing that. I'm going to throw a curve or something.
Yeah, so we always have a scouting report prior to the game, so the catcher, knows exactly what hitters' weaknesses are, what they can and can't do. Then they have to know kind of what the pitcher can and can't do. But ultimately, the saying in professional baseball is, it's ultimately you make the decision as the pitcher, because the catcher's, your stats don't go on the back of the catcher's baseball card. They go on the back of your baseball card. So ultimately, you have to throw what you want to throw. So, but if you have a really good rapport with your catcher, it kind of takes the decision making out of it. You trust him. You go with it. Brad Osmus, one of the best.
Did he give you that sign for that sinker?
Sinker in, yeah.
And you knew it?
I knew it.
What's that look like, the sinker in sign?
It's the pointer finger with a little twirl.
Swirly?
Yeah. Because one is fastball, sinker is just a little twirly one.
Because it just puts a little movement on there?
Yeah, just a little movement.
Fastball 1. What's 2?
2 was curveball. 3 was slider. Wiggle was changed. 4 wiggle.
Wait, I'm writing this down so I can watch it.
It's like the universal Major League Baseball sign. 1 is fastball, 2 is curve. But in college, you got to change it, though, because, there's a lot of people that are sitting. Because as you saw with the Astros, like they cheated like openly, like at second base and like banging things, like that's one thing. But if you get to second base and you can decipher what the pitch is, like I don't think that's cheating.
Right.
So in college baseball, it happens all the time, right? You're always trying to like either pick the pitcher or pick signs from the catcher at first base or second base.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's totally fine.
So
right?
you don't have the belt for bunt, hat for
No.
hit and run,
Mm-mm.
skin on skin steal.
Ooh.
That
I'm gonna have to bring that up with
that
Coach
was
Mo.
Jack Romaldo.
What are you doing after
Jack
this?
Romaldo taught me that from.
I need you to come talk to Coach
You know
Mo
what's
and
funny?
maybe get
Please,
your signs with him.
please
Yes.
don't do that.
Yes. So it was funny though when I asked you about that sinker. You looked at me in a way you were like, I knew it. Like you had something in your eye that was like,
Yep.
this is the one. This is, and it worked
Yeah.
clearly.
Well, it's the only way. It's the only way to get him out. You throw anything out over the plate, he's going to hammer you.
Has the NIL situation affected you positively, negatively? Are you on board with all this?
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome. I think players should be able to take advantage of their name, their image, and their likeness. I think it's great. I'm not sure how many of our guys are dealing with it right now. I found out maybe like a week ago, like one of our guys has like a Chipotle thing where he gets like 15 meals for the year, and he's already down to 2.
We don't even get that.
So
That guy's living large.
right.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping that, it really, with Fort Worth and a lot of the people that have, graduated from here and even just local businesses to help
Yes.
support, our program and our programs at TCU, I think can make a huge difference in terms of us continuing to get great talent.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of things in the works right now to make sure that we stay relevant in recruiting, because that's what it comes down to. You're not a very good coach if you have bad players.
Mm-hmm.
So you better be really good at recruiting.
Yeah.
And so, we're going up against the SEC. We're going up against all the state, schools in our state. There's a lot of really great baseball schools. So, if we're going to stay relevant, we got to make sure that we're able to take the cost of TCU down as much as we possibly can, because these kids are being able to go to these other state schools for nothing.
Mm.
And it's very difficult for us to
Surely.
get it to that.
You were telling us off air before the show that you guaranteed that TCU would be in the College World Series. Do you want to speak to that a little more, or did I catch that wrong?
Yeah, I don't know if I said that one. Brandy? No?
Randy Davidson in the house.
In the house.
Well, as you know, baseball goes with nothing better than wine.
Yeah.
Your family, the Saarloos family, has a vineyard in California. Your brother Keith runs this vineyard. Can you tell us a little about the family story there? It was an apple orchard originally.
Yep, it was. So we grew up in Southern California in Long Beach. And then I think it was around my junior year of college, my dad's kind of goal was always to own a ranch. Right. His father his father came from Iowa. My mom's family came from Minnesota. So a lot of kind of farm ranch background.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather always wanted a ranch. Well, he worked until he was, basically about 75 years old, and then passed a little bit later on. So he never really got his ranch. So my dad always in his mind was like, I'm going to get a ranch at some point. So they bought a ranch my junior year of college, and they'd kind of spend time up there in Santa Barbara and then back in Long Beach, kind of going back and forth. And then as soon as I got done playing in college, they're like, we're out of there. We're going up north. We're going up to Santa Barbara, just inland from Santa Barbara, where the ranch was located. And so they spent the first year, they had an apple orchard. My dad's like, man, it sucks to farm apples. Like the apple market's in Japan or the Northwest. Like the apple market is not in San Ynez or Solvang, California. And he's looking around. He's like, well, there's a lot of vineyards here. Let's plant a vineyard. So they ripped the apple orchard out, that 17 acres of apples out, put in the vineyard, had no idea what they were doing. But my dad's super smart, reads books, talks to people, like a people person. He's like, I'm going to go ask all these other vineyards, like, what's the pro, what's the con? Like, what do I need to know? So planted it. And it was just kind of for fun, right? He was going to sell about 99% of the grapes. It was a Syrah. Everything was Syrah, which there wasn't a lot of Syrah in that valley. So he was going to sell 99% of the grapes and keep, 1% and just kind of do a family label.
Yeah.
And they did that the first 2 years. And then people were like, man, that's pretty good. Where can I buy it? And he's like, so he kept, keeping a little bit more of a chunk of that Syrah back for family labels. And then ultimately, when my brother moved up there, I don't even know what year it was, probably 2004, maybe 2005. And that's where it really took off. My brother's kind of a marketing genius, Instagram and all that stuff. And he took over, and then we bought a tasting room there. And then since then, it's taken off. My brother's done a great job with it, and now they have another 100 acres or so that they have more varietal. So it's been awesome. My brother kills it. He does a great job with, the labels and just telling the family story.
Yeah.
I think that's the cool part that people, really like understand and like is, it's a story. It's not just a label, it's a story, and then kind of the vibe of the tasting room is if you want to talk about like notes and what you're, the smell, my brother's like, leave. Like,
no,
you know way more about wine
Tell
than
stories.
I do. Please leave. It's not like, it's kind of a opposite of probably most wineries in terms of our tasting rooms, in terms of
It's
maybe
actually
less statistical.
Yes,
we might say.
Yes.
It's actually a wonderful wine. So your brother's doing a great job. Obviously, you know that. People can find that at Saarloos.
SaarloosandSons.com.
SaarloosandSons.com. Very cool.
Yeah, probably, there's a lot of people that have. I haven't even drank either of these bottles. Like, I'm usually the last one to. Like, a lot of the friends are like, "Hey, have you had this wine?" I'm like, I actually haven't had it.
Yeah.
Are you a wine guy or no?
I like wine, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think I got to get on my brother to have him send me more bottles so I don't have to drink my friends.
Yeah.
Our friend Charlie Scholes is responsible for providing that for the show today. So thank you, Charlie. He's had a few bottles, he says, and he claims it's really good as well. I believe him. Yeah. So back when I saw him, he might have had a bottle on him at the time. But the Saarloos name, is that a Fredericksburg name or is it Iowa? What are we talking about? This is Dutch.
Yeah.
So the Netherlands, we researched, that's where it's a very not a common, but more common than most places on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also there's a wolf or a type of dog, maybe a dog breed is a better word, a Saarloos dog breed.
Yeah, the wolfhound.
Are you familiar with this?
Not really. I know it's on that label.
You don't own a Saarloos wolfhound or?
Nope, I got the old golden retriever.
Very nice.
We are grateful you came by today.
Yeah, super thanks.
Before we go, we always ask our guests, aside from familial affairs, wife, kids, marriage, all that stuff that's obviously important, what's the best day of your whole life?
Ooh, best day of my whole life. Probably, I would say there's probably getting the phone call that says I was going to go to the big leagues.
Yeah.
That was pretty, and it was actually 2 days before my wedding.
Oh, wow.
Which I was getting married on a AA All-Star break, which I got it cleared with the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was getting married on a Sunday in AA All-Star break. And they called me on Friday and they're like, "Hey, can you be in Milwaukee?" Because I was getting married in Seattle, where my wife's from. They're like, "Hey, can you be in Milwaukee on Monday?" I'm like, "Why? Milwaukee? Really?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, we're playing the Brewers and we need you to start on Tuesday." So I got married on Sunday. And then pitched in the big leagues debut on Tuesday.
And it was right before the wedding?
Right after. So
right
Sunday
after.
wedding, Monday, like basically the whole wedding party traveled to Milwaukee on Monday with us.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the old Tuesday, honeymoon in Milwaukee, like everyone dreams about.
Yeah.
Were you additionally nervous for your own wedding because of this? Or were you just like, "Oh, this is the best day ever because I have this and another big moment in my life coming in 2 days"?
Yeah, I think I was, like usually people, I'm getting married, a little bit of nerves. It's like, I'm thinking about Tuesday in my nerves. Like Sunday was a breeze.
Sure.
Yeah. But Tuesday was like, holy cow, I can't believe. So I'm really doing this. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
though.
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing your life with us. We're grateful you're here again. We wish you luck this year. We know you're going to do good things because you've done it already. You've proven yourself. We appreciate you guys, everybody tuning in. You can check us out on rockstomediahouse.com or FORTitude FW on Twitter. Additionally, on Fort Worth Inc. Website, on our sponsors. Kirk Saarloos, TCU head baseball coach.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
you
bet.
help deciphering those signs. We'll get it out there this spring.
Might have to have you in the dugout.
Oh,